In this video, I'm going to give you multiple tips, tricks, hacks, and cheat codes that'll help you make more money when you're driving on the new Uber Eats pay model. Let me know if you get this in your area or if you've gotten this in your area recently. I got this in my area this weekend, and I'm going to go over the lessons I learned, the cheat codes I've learned, and hopefully if you get this in the future, you'll know how to beat it. But before I get into it, do me a favor and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, especially if you want to see more content like this. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So I recently got the new Uber Eats pay model in my area. So this is where you don't get the addresses up front. You have to do a certain number of orders and complete them consecutively in order to get addresses. Otherwise, your screen looks like this. So I got this in my zone Friday, and I didn't want to take these orders. But Saturday, I did start taking these orders, and here's a couple of things that I learned with doing this. So initially, the first screenshots that I saw when this came out like a month ago, I think Hannibal did a video. I seen a couple other posts on Reddit. It had it that you had to complete 5 out of 10 orders in order to keep seeing addresses. When I got it in my zone, it was only 3 out of 10. So that is definitely an improvement than a 50% acceptance rate. But 30% is not as bad as 50%. Now, as you can see with this picture here, you won't know the ending location when you get that order if you're not getting addresses. So if you're not getting addresses, all you get is the amount of the order and the distance. So you got to kind of figure it out yourself, whether that's a distance you want to travel for that amount. Is that an order that's worth taking? Is it a good dollars per mile? But unfortunately, you will not know where you're ending up at. So if you live in an area that, is all suburbs and you don't care where you end up at, it's not that bad. But the other side of the coin, if you live in an area where, going in one direction is okay, but the other direction is going to the other side of the tracks, that may not be an order you want to take. It may not be, an update that is effective for you. It may kind of kill your whole swagger. Nonetheless, with still being able to see the amount of the trip and the distance for the trip, you can still figure out, hey, am I getting $2 per mile or greater for this trip? Am I getting like 50 cents per mile? Because that's still a lowball order. Now, another thing that I figured out is that even though you can't see where the ending destination is, you can kind of figure out where the starting destination is. Because when you receive these orders on that offer screen, you can pinch zoom in and you can kind of find out, hey, is this going to an order that's to a restaurant that's slow? Is it going to a McDonald's? Is it going to a Taco Bell? Like on this one here, I can find out that I was going to a Chick-fil-A, and I can decide whether it's worth it or not. Additionally, this is another benefit of knowing your market, because if you know your market, you can kind of figure out the restaurants in that area. Then you have a pretty good idea of what restaurant it's going to be. Unless there's a bunch of restaurants in a clump, then you're kind of rolling the dice there. But for the most part, you can definitely figure out if it's going to a restaurant you're willing to go to or not, if you do some pinch zooming and use what Uber is allowing you to see on that offer screen. Another thing that I figured out in my pursuit of trying to get 3 out of 10 orders completed and find out where these addresses are at is that when you get a stacked order, those 2 orders, they do count for 2 separate orders. So if you're getting a stacked order or you get an add-on order and you complete those 2 orders, that'll get 2 out of those 3 done. And then you're only looking for 1 more order that you need to complete in order to start seeing addresses. Unfortunately, what I noticed, at least that was my experience, is when I did a stacked order and then only had 1 more order to complete, all of the orders that were offered were pretty trash. So I think I completed a stack order, then got like 8 trash offers in a row, and then got another good order that was worth taking. That was a single one. I saw addresses for 1 more order, and when I did see addresses, it was a very crappy offer. And like I said, because I declined like 8 in between, as soon as I declined that offer that I was able to see, I went back to not seeing addresses. So it is a rolling 3 out of 10 that you have to keep, meaning if you take 2, skip 8, then take 1, you'll see addresses again. But then after you decline like 1 or 2 more orders, since you haven't taken 3 out of the last 10, you will stop seeing addresses again. So keep that in mind if seeing addresses is important to you. If it's not, then, you can kind of play that by ear. And by the way, another thing that I learned is that whether you're able to see addresses or not, it won't stop you from getting lowball offers. So you do have to keep that in mind as well. One thing that I did to help me when I was not getting addresses is that I reduced the amount of mileage that I would take. When I'm not getting addresses, what I found to be effective for me is to make sure I'm at a solid $2 per mile for whatever the offer is. A lot of times I'm looking at accepting things that are a little bit closer to $3 per mile. So that's something that I noticed in my market that's been effective, is that when you're not getting addresses, you might want to consider increasing your dollars per mile for the orders you're looking to accept. Additionally, another thing that kind of hurts if you're a multi-apper is that when you're not getting addresses, cross-stacking is impossible because you don't know where you're going to end up at. I don't know if this Uber Eats order is going to go in the same direction as this DoorDash order or this Grubhub order, which means that when you are getting addresses, cross-stacking is even more important. So if you're a multi-apper and you get this update and you get the requisite 3 out of 10 completed and you're getting addresses, use that opportunity to cross-stack maybe some things that might be a little bit more borderline, and because otherwise you're going to be reduced the amount you're going to make per hour when you're not getting addresses. So that means that in order to keep the same wage rate, you got to balance it out by cross-stacking a little bit more. Now, another thing, because of that, you have to keep it 3 out of 10 rolling in order to keep getting addresses. When it's slower, you're getting a lot more lowball offers. So in that case, when I'm getting addresses and I know it's like at the end of the dinner rush, the end of the lunch rush, it's going to get slow, I turn off Uber Eats so that I can keep getting addresses for the next time that I turn it on. Or, I've seen 2 or 3 bad offers in a row. I consider turning off that Uber Eats until a busier time and just using, my Grubhub, my DoorDash, and doing Shipt. So a couple last things or a couple last thoughts about this update, about my experiences driving for this update, is that I did notice that customers seem to tip bigger. I think a lot of drivers are, striking. They're not using this update, at least in Phoenix, at least in this area. Maybe they're going over to Grubhub and DoorDash. So the people are waiting longer if they're ordering on Uber Eats. So maybe they have to increase their tips. I mean, most of the orders that I did take that were worth taking for me did come with some hidden tips. I think like 3 out of the 4 I took had hidden tips over the weekend. I mean, I was doing a lot more Shipt and more DoorDash. Nonetheless, like I said, I saw more hidden tips. Also keep in mind that because, some of those drivers are going off of the Uber Eats platform in your area, especially if this is rolling out and they don't like it and they want to strike and they want to, hit Uber where it hurts, that means that there's technically going to be more acceptable orders on the platform for you to take. The customers don't know that this is happening for us, or maybe they just think that something is changing. Maybe some of them do if they're a customer as well as a driver. But that being said, the same lowball orders are still going to be there. But as far as the orders we're taking and the higher offer amounts, there's technically more of those not being taken since nobody takes the lowball orders, and the ones that are left are being taken by the drivers that are smarter, like you and me, that are still on this platform, willing to tough it out, willing to evolve as the platform evolves. That being said, definitely I recommend you stick to bigger orders if this comes in your market. Definitely stick to stacked orders as well, since stacked orders count as 2 orders, and it'll keep that rolling total higher for you, especially if you're getting addresses, or if you need to get addresses sooner than later. Add-ons and those type of things of that nature keep you from essentially having to take more orders, having to drive more miles, and ultimately it's what I found to be worth it in the end for me. So with that being said, if you got value from this video, do me a favor and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, especially if you want to see more videos like this. Until next time, thank you for watching, and dash optimally.